They opened the cell and found only an empty bed and a small, wet shoe print on the concrete. The guards had checked the bars and counted the heads like they did every night. The block was quiet. It was early morning and the lights were half dim. Then someone shouted. The voice cut the air like a whistle. Men ran. Keys rattled. The door to cell number 3 stood open, swinging a little, and inside the bed lay smooth, not slept in. A towel hung on the low hook. A cup sat on the little table. But the man who slept there, Joaquín, called El Chapo by many, was not there. The word spread to the prison like lightning. He's gone! He's gone! People talked in quick, sharp whispers. The warden's face went white. Cameras were checked and rechecked. The tape showed a man lying still, a shadow moving past a blind spot, then the bed empty. The guards found a scar of wet footprints that led out of the cell toward a place where they did not expect to find path. The whole world seemed to tilt. How could a man imprisoned in a tall stone fortress simply disappear? Journalists called it the biggest escape in a long time. People who lived near the prison watched the highway for a thread of headlights. Families who had lost to drug violence thought of revenge and justice and sighed at once. For El Chapo's enemies, for those who feared him, his disappearance made a new kind of cold in their bones. To understand how this could happen, we must go back to the beginning and follow each small choice and strange moment that led to that open cell. Only then can the full picture come into view. Joaquín was not born a kingpin. He grew up in a small village in Mexico. As a boy, he watched the river and the fields and learned how to listen. He learned to move quietly and to use his eyes. People who knew him then said he was clever and stubborn. He wanted more than the small town could offer. He wanted power. Over the years, he rose through people and places like a shadow. He became a man who knew many faces, who could ask a favor and have it done, who could make money from the smallest of chances. By the time the guards put him in a high-security prison, he was famous and feared. He had been caught for crimes that hurt many people. He had been through long trials and many years. The state wanted him kept behind walls. The prison chosen for him had thick walls, guard towers with bright lights, high fences crowned with rolls of razor wire, and cameras that watched every road and gate. The men who ran the place were serious about rules. The idea was simple. Make a prison so tight that no one could leave. Inside, Joaquín had a small world. He had visitors on certain days. He had a routine, breakfast at set hour, a short yard time, work in a small room with other prisoners, and a narrow sleep. He was careful about what he said. He was careful about who he trusted. Even inside those walls, he still had influence. People who once did errands for him outside now found ways to pass messages for him. The prison is its own world, with its own maps and old rules. Men like Joaquín learned to read that map. Outside the prison, the life was loud. People argued about how he had grown rich and cruel. Some said the police had not done enough. Others wondered whether men like him ever truly stopped. A journalist named Anna wanted to tell the whole story. She carried a small notebook and asked quiet questions. A mother who had lost a son to the drug war waited every day for news that would mean his power had ended. The country watched in part because the story felt too big. It touched many lives. In the months before the escape, small things started to show up in the reports. A camera in the laundry room had a static burst one night. A guard called in sick and then, surprisingly, resigned without reason. A delivery truck came one morning with a load of sacks that did not match the list. People who study prison say that escape is not made by one big act, but by 1,000 small holes. One missing bolt, one overlooked shift, one person whose eyes wander. These make room for something larger. Inside the cell block, Joaquín's routine did not change much. He read and wrote. He listened. He had a way of smiling without changing his face. Sometimes a visitor would bring a small gift of fruit or a legal paper that mentioned a name. He kept calm. He kept the bed tidy. He kept the corner of the cell where he pretended not to listen. But he also watched the guards, the cameras, and the schedules. He learned who walked where and when the lights blinked. He learned the thump of the locks and the long path of the maintenance staff. A man who wanted to escape must have help, And a man like Joaquín had friends and enemies beyond the walls. Some inside the prison were loyal to him because of fear or favor. Some outside knew how to move money and hide things. They used code words and thick envelopes. They had tools in delivery trucks and passed messages hidden in laundry bags. This was not one man alone. It was a web of people who worked around him and sometimes for him. One rainy night, the routine shifted. There had been whispers for days, a plan in pieces, folded and passed. A guard in the East Tower fell ill and was replaced with a new man who did not know the rhythms. A worker in the kitchen changed shift patterns and unlocked an extra door for a minute while looking for a missing spoon. These little changes matched the pieces of the web that other men had been weaving. Joaquín sat at his table, writing in the margin of a legal paper. He did not speak loudly. He did not sing. He listened for the sound of keys on metal and for the soft radio static the guards used to check in. He knew where the weak spots were. He knew the schedule of the maintenance truck that came to the yard with sacks of cement. He knew when the camera above the laundry room blinked for a second during the late shift. He had planned long before that night. The plan, at least the part we can talk about, did not involve detailed instructions on how to break through walls or tunnels. Important. I will not provide technical details that could teach someone to escape. Instead, I will describe what happened, how people felt, and what the consequences were. On the night the escape happened, a loud noise came from the outer gate, the kind of noise that makes heads turn. Guards ran to check. A delivery truck had stalled near the main gate. While they were there, a maintenance door was found unlocked for a short time. Someone saw a shadow pass a camera's blind spot. A few minutes later, the prisoner count was done and one body was missing. In the dark, a towel lay on the bed, wet and used. A shoe print led to a door that the guard swore should have been locked. The discovery threw the prison into chaos. Officers called in backup. The perimeter alarm screamed. Dark figures with flashlights checked fences and barbed wire. Helicopters circled close above, their lights cutting the night. Dogs ran in lines and then lost the scent in a tangle of bushes. The radio crackled with voices shouting names and coordinates. The warden cursed and pushed his hat into his palms. He had been in charge of a place meant to hold men like Joaquín, and yet the man had vanished. On the outside, news vans arrived and lights flashed like stars falling down. Reporters asked the warden how such a thing could happen. Families of victims listened in anger. People who feared Joaquín breathed hard with a mix of worry and relief. The country watched the drama unfold and asked how a leader of a feared cartel could escape from a fortress of steel and concrete. The search went on for days. Borders were checked. Trucks were stopped and searched. Phone records were pulled. Men who had once done errands found their homes searched by policemen. The government moved quickly and loudly. But along with that came a strange mix of admiration from some corners, a man who vanished like a ghost, and deep fear from other corners. No one wanted the man loose. Days passed. The television showed grainy footage of the open cell and of wet footprints. The president spoke words about justice and about a hunt to bring him back. The police arrested a few people on suspicion of helping. Men were questioned under the lights of interrogation rooms, their faces wet with sweat. Some confessed small things out of fear. Some said nothing. The story spread into books and songs. At last, after months and months, a trace was found, a clue that would lead to a capture. It came not from the prison, but from a routine inspection of a safe house in another state, a cable tie with a manufacturer's stamp, a truck receipt with a handwriting match, a witness who remembered a face in a van. Little by little, the web that helped him was pulled apart like a thread from a cloth. Men who had once been loyal turned on each other when the lights got too bright. Army and police forces moved in a night raid that felt like a scene from a movie. They broke down doors, used loudspeakers, and shouted names. The men inside were caught while trying to flee. Joaquín was cornered. He did not run on foot into the brush. He did not climb a ladder to freedom. He was found in a safe place where he had thought himself hidden. The weight of the law came down. When they took him back to the high-security cell, the prison felt different. The men looked at him in new ways. Some were angry he had tried to run. Some were plainly relieved. The warden changed some routines. The guards checked every bolt. Cameras were moved. The story of his empty bed became a memory, a lesson, a shame. But closing the cell and locking the door was not the end. People asked, why had he escaped? What about those who helped him? Would the same holes exist again? And the final question, would he ever escape again? That question created a new kind of quiet in the prison. The authorities made changes, tighter checks, new guards, different delivery protocols. They moved him to a place where the outside world was farther and the walls thicker. They limited who could visit. They watched every move. He was kept in new cages that were harder to bend. On the night after he returned, a guard sat by his post and watched the prisoner sleep. The man who had once slipped from the cell now lay quiet, his chest rising and falling. The guard thought about the times people try to find chance and how small mistakes become big holes. He wondered about loyalty and fear and about how power can vanish and then be forced into a tighter place. At the end of this chapter, an extreme event happened that would close the door on any easy hopes of escape. The government announced a transfer. Joaquín was moved far away, across borders, to a new place of confinement where the rules were not the same and where escape would be a different kind of impossible. The headlines screamed the transfer. Planes, armored vehicles, and convoys moved like a long iron snake. They rolled him away at dawn, under layers of security, to a prison built to keep men permanently inside. As the convoy left, the guards who had once watched him knew that, for the moment, the greatest chance of him escaping had passed. They felt the weight of their work. Outside, the news cameras filmed the convoy until it vanished. The public breathed. But the story remained in people's minds, a story of cleverness and hubris, of helpers and holes, of a man who once walked out of cell and the long work it took to put him back behind bars. We stop here. Tell me when you want chapter 2, and I will continue.